Hello everyone and welcome back. Today I'm going to be reviewing California by Edan Lepucki. She wrote this book and she started it out with 3 full pages of quotes from famous people or from different magazines saying like how awesome and wonderful the book is. I mean, they're right. It is a good book and it's very fitting. I mean, it's really fitting here in 2020, maybe a bit too fitting if you need a break from the news. But it's a bit pretentious to start your book off with 3 full pages of quotes. When I write a book, I'm not doing that because, oh goodness. But then again, I know that this is probably something Miss Lepucki didn't have a choice over. It was probably the publisher, the editor, and people like her agent, if she even has an agent. Some people do, some people don't. That was probably all her choice. That was probably all the agent's choice and the editor and the publisher and all that, not Mrs. Lepucki's choice, so I can't really knock it too much. This book is a dystopian present day book. Not to be confused with a dystopian future. A dystopian present book has the characters in a society that could reasonably be considered the society that the reader lives in, with some things that are going wrong. The book starts out with Frida and Cal having left California proper, Los Angeles, and taken all of their belongings that they could carry in a truck and driving to a national park, a very big national park, where they decide to find a place to live, and so they do. They had to leave because something about the plastic contaminated the water supply and made it very hard for things to grow, and then the supply chain broke down. A lot of bad things happen. The book has an odd timeline in the beginning. You start the book thinking that Frida is pregnant, and she is, but then she goes about her day, and then it feels like, oh, you're talking to this person. No, that discussion happened like 2 months ago, and then she goes about her day, and then something happens that feels like it was today, but no, it happened a month ago, and eventually it catches up to where it's all present day. Frida meets 2 neighbors that she has and gets to know them pretty well. They have 2 children, and Frida is kind of excited about getting to share with them that they're pregnant. And Frida is kind of excited about getting to share with the neighbors that she is pregnant. But before she can do so, the author reveals that the neighbors are actually dead. We don't really know for certain what happened. I mean, it's laid out like, oh yeah, there was poison, and suddenly they decided to stop living. All 4 of them. And Frida's really hurt and really distraught about it until one day Cal decides to stop keeping the secret that the father told him. He says, hey, there's these giant spikes way over there, like a 2 days walk. The neighbor told me about them, but he made me promise not to tell you because he didn't want you going over there, because the spikes actually circle a neighborhood of sorts that they will shoot on sight. Like, they don't want anybody coming near them. Come to find out that he wasn't exactly being honest. So Frida decides, hey, I want to go. Cal decides, maybe you shouldn't. But finally, Frida convinces him to go when she walks super far on her own. And Cal is like, well, shoot, I guess she's just going to go. Along the walk, and along the book up until this point, there's a discussion about Frida's brother. Frida's brother is named Micah, and he was part of this social reform group that was one half theater performance and the other half explosive. One day, Micah joins the explosive side and holds an explosive as it goes off, and Frida is understandably distraught. In the book, we see Frida's views of her brother and like what a good and wonderful and creative person he was. And then we see Cal's views of the brother, he was very interested in things. He was very intellectually curious. Cal went to college with Micah, the brother, and got to see his mild decline into some groups that were not the best to be reading about. Cal's case in point is that one day Micah starts talking about these special Renaissance-y pictures of leaders in Germany. Yeah, and Cal is like, I know that Micah wasn't a good person. He was already going down the dark path in college, but that was well before he got involved with the explosive group, and he doesn't really know how to tell Frida. Yeah, well, they get to the town. They end up going into the Spikes, and they see this town. They get invited in for reasons that Cal and Frida aren't quite certain about until they actually get in there. Come to find out, there's no children in this town. And that's kind of a problem for Frida because she's pregnant, and what's a town of like 50 people doing if the youngest is 21 and the oldest is 57? Where are the children? There's a plan to have some more social reform happen, but Frida's not really on board with it. Cal's not really on board with it. So they have to decide, are they going to be in this town and going to be in relative safety, where there's a farm and there's showers, or are they going to go back to their little spot in the woods and have to fend for themselves because there's pirates around, like legit actual pirates? What are they going to do? And that's the main crux of the book. It gets really serious and really intrigued. About halfway through the book, it takes some time to warm up, but it was worth a read. It's a big one too. Like, look at this. This is, how many pages was this? The last page, 389 is the last page. Now, I'm going to start with what I liked. I can't remember what I've been doing in previous videos. I'm going to start with what I liked. The writing of the book was very easy to understand, but there was one part that was just really beautiful. And I don't know if it was beautiful because I know what's happened or if it was the way things were worded. So I'm going to read it to you and let you decide. This comes from page 374, and it's right after we figure out why the neighbors decided to suddenly stop living. I don't want to give away the name or gender, so I'm just going to call them the murderer so I don't spoil this, but it's a good passage and I liked it. He wasn't certain if it was loyalty or self-interest, desperation or fear, or even the same metallic coldness that ran through the murderer. Cal couldn't blame him for following the murderer, for tidying up the situation, for trying to resolve it in whatever way he could. Maybe what he had done was wrong, but it was human too. Maybe it was compassion that had led him back into that house. He'd wanted to return the father to his family. And he is not Cal in that passage there. When faced with a tough situation, when faced with all morally bad options, trying to find even the tiniest sliver of light, the tiniest sliver of good in a situation, is just really nice. Because sometimes there's no good decision to make. Sometimes the only thing you can do is the wrong thing. Like 3 wrong things, pick the one that's the least wrong. That's the snippet of knowledge that I gained from this book. My main problem with this book is only a problem because of my specific career. So I'm a therapist. I deal with emotional disorders. I deal with connections, attachment, mental health issues, all day, every day. So when I see 2 characters that are constantly keeping secrets from each other, keeping more and more secrets to one-up each other and being incapable of trusting that one person is doing what they think is best and the other person is doing what they think is best, and they're keeping secrets about private things in order to keep the family safe. I'm just like, stop it, you petty fools. Someone who's not a therapist, not a counselor of any kind, you're going to read this book and be like, well, this is cool. But for me, it's like, but it's only because I see it blow up in people's faces twice a week, 3 times a week on a bad week. So don't let that discourage you from reading the book. Overall, I would give this book 3 out of 5 stars. If people deciding to no longer live is something that triggers you, you really don't want to read this book. Because Frida's brother, he holds a bomb until it goes off. The Millers, the neighbors, all 4 of them, and remember there's 2 children, they decide to stop living, and yeah, that's something that could trigger some people. So keep that in mind if you choose to read this book. But if you're an adult who has been fortunate enough to not be impacted by people deciding to no longer live, then this book would be fine for you to read. Thank you for listening to my review today, guys. I'll catch you next time. Bye!